Why didn't the daughter's people ever return here after they called the anomaly? I never heard about this city in the stories of the Pax. Was it lost to history? Or were they terrified of it? What the hell
Yeah, right back at you.
This has gotta be the palace. Now to find the throne room.
Yep, this Techno build's mostly done now. I got pretty lucky with the rolls, although when I realized the reason it was easier was because there's so many different legendary pieces you can get in Apocalyptic that work with this build. Now the big thing, of course, is the boots, because I can't get status power on any Techno boots, unfortunately. So I'd have to get a perfect purple roll boots, which I don't know if that'll ever happen, to get status power back on it. And then obviously I still need to get perfect attributes like skill leech on my helmet and stuff like that, since long range damage, healing receive, that's all trash. But in the meantime, this is great because it allowed me to effectively get all 15 mods that I wanted to get and still maintain most of my status power, which was the most important thing, is like get all 15 mods, still maintain most of your status power, and still be tanky. Giving up 1 max health for an anomaly power on my pants with the Grim Inventor's pants is not that big of a deal because I'm still invincible even without 1 max health. Now the thing is, when you keep going, because believe me, it stacks up. Like max health, in this game, max health really helps your tankiness way more than anomaly power or firepower help your DPS on DPS builds. Not that they don't help at all. If you're going to do a pure glass cannon build, you still want to lose max health for those attributes. But my point is, like, percentage based, in my view, I would argue, like when it comes to making a DPS build, your skill tree and your mods and your attributes, well, like status power. Status powers of certain attributes like status power because they go with skill nodes. So certain skill nodes, and so again, it gets back to skills actually, skill nodes, not attributes. But yeah, skill nodes and mods are absolutely the most important thing when it comes to maxing your damage on DPS builds. Whereas firepower and anomaly power attributes on your gear don't really do much. They do help, and they're good finishing touch, but they're not the most pressing thing. However, for tank builds, you absolutely need, if you're not doing a martyr set at least, then you absolutely need max health, because it helps with everything. It helps with your durability against armor-based attacks, anomaly-based attacks, healing, because it increases your threshold for how much your skill leech and weapon leech are able to heal you is actually partially based off your health, not just simply the damage you deal. So it affects everything, virtually everything. So that's why it's so important to stack as much as you can when you're going for a tank build. But yeah, thanks to just being a Techno and having insane amounts of healing, I can justify giving up 1 of them. Maybe even 2, but I don't really want to go that far. Because believe me, it's a big percentage chunk every time you take away 1 of them. So eventually the end game version of this build is I don't want to have those Grim Inventor pants. I want to actually get purple pants with max health and status power instead that still maintain the same mods. And then when I do that, I won't lose hardly any damage. I might lose 1 second at most against like the Final Arbiter, because that, again, that's how little it does. I see what it does. It does hardly anything. It does do something, but it's very small. It maybe gives me like, I don't know, 2%, if not less than that, more damage to like my turrets and launcher. So it's really very insignificant on its own. However, status power, because again of the skill tree, status power attribute helps my damage way more than anomaly power attribute. So if I can ever get that on my boots, that'll definitely help another decent chunk. And so for that reason, whenever I can get rid of the max health on my pants and add anomaly power on my boots, even though I would give up anomaly power and to max my health completely, I would still deal more damage overall. I'm telling you that. I'm going to do more damage when I get the status power instead. So that's why he's still going to maintain all max health in the future and just be a pure tank. But in the meantime, I mean, I'm probably going to be, honestly, this build is probably what it's going to be for who knows how long, because I'm convinced, I'm not even sure you can get the boots I want with status power on them, because I've been farming this game for years and I've literally never found one. It's just that insane when it comes to purple pieces especially. And by the way, so I tested with the Final Arbiter. This guy can solo kill him in just under 40 seconds. It's like 38-ish, I want to say. From like the start of you shooting him to the very end when he drops to 0. It's like 38, 37 seconds, which means he's just a tad bit slower, but almost as good as my minigun Techno, who kills him in about 35 seconds, I think, or just under 35, like 34 or something. So, but the thing is, my minigun Techno, which I don't know if I posted him yet, I don't think I have, because he uses the Martyr set, so he's actually not completely and also he's still unfinished, like this guy is. He's still missing a status power attribute on his boots too. And then anomaly power on his gloves, I remember, because on the Martyr set, your max health, armor, resistance, all of that doesn't mean anything. So you're better off just getting as much damage on the rest of your mods and attributes as you can. But the thing is, you have a lot of dead attributes and mods on the Martyr set, which is why his damage is not as good as it could be on a minigun Techno. But it's still pretty close. But what that proves is the minigun, since he still kills the Arbiter a little bit faster than this guy, the minigun is better for single target damage against elites. It does do more damage than the RPG, but honestly not a huge amount more. And the difference is the RPG interrupts the boss constantly. So I still would say it's not useless, but also you could actually use the minigun on this build that I used. You could actually use the minigun and still be OP with it, because the minigun, you don't need any minigun specific mods for it to still do a ton of damage, because it's pretty much all from your anomaly power, which this guy still has a ton of that, and status power. So you could actually still use the minigun. That's the thing. When you're doing a rocket launcher build for a Techno, you can actually still use the minigun effectively on it too if you decide to. However, the reverse is not true. On a minigun build, like my minigun Techno, the reason the rocket launcher isn't nearly as good is because I don't have it's really just because I don't have the demolition mod. Also, I don't have infinite ammo, because the rocket launcher only has 4 rockets as the base, whereas the minigun, you don't need bang for the buck to still have infinite ammo, because it comes with 160 rounds, which is more than enough to still have fixing wave restored every time. So, like, you need bang for the buck or something like that, and you need Demolition Man to give you that base increase to your rocket launcher damage too. So yeah, when you're doing a minigun build, the rocket launcher stops being good. But it's funny, on a rocket launcher build, the minigun is still effective. It's still not as good as it could be, because again, I'm using bang for the buck and Demolition Man, which don't help the minigun. So if you wanted to go a pure minigun route, you could replace those for even more anomaly power, for instance. Like, also on the minigun, you can actually get crits. So you could replace that, for instance, with arms and anomaly, or an Aurora Force, like crit-based anomaly power mods to stack even more damage on the minigun. That's the thing. You can't use crit-based mods on this kind of RPG build, because you can't get crits. Well, you can't get them, period. I think I've hit the Arbiter in the head, and he still doesn't get a crit. Of course, even if you could get crits with the RPG, it still wouldn't be worth it, because the frustration of having to aim for crit sports with the freaking rocket launcher, that's just ridiculous. And it defeats the purpose of using the rocket launcher, which is just hitting the ground, really, and just getting as much AoE instead, so, and staggering. Anyway, let me shut up now. I've been talking too much.